The starship Harmony dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a violent shake. Captain Woojin grabbed his chair as the bridge lights flickered. Something was wrong. The jump should have been smooth, but instead it felt like they had hit a wall. "Report," Woojin called out to his crew. "Sir, we're at Kepler 442b, but the navigation systems are acting strange," said Lieutenant Hana from her position at the engineering station. Her fingers flew over the controls, checking readings that made no sense. "The planet's gravity field is different somehow." Woojin stared at the main screen. The planet looked normal enough, a blue and green world that had been home to 50,000 human settlers for the past 5 years. New Sol Colony was supposed to be sending regular reports, but Earth had not heard from them in 3 days. That's why the Harmony was here. As an exploration ship, they often checked on colonies that went quiet. Usually it was just broken communication equipment or bad weather. But Woojin had a bad feeling about this one. "Take us into orbit," he ordered. Standard approach. Law. Ship moved closer to the planet. Through the windows, Woojin could see the familiar patterns of human settlements, neat squares of farmland, straight roads, and the bright metal of buildings reflecting sunlight. Everything looked normal from space. "Sir," called out Dr. Tejo from the science station. The xenobiologist had been studying the planet's readings since they arrived. "I'm not detecting any human life signs." Woojin felt his stomach drop. "None. At all?" "None, sir." "But that's not the strange part. I'm not detecting any life signs at all. No animals, no birds, nothing. It's like the whole planet just stopped." Hana looked up from her controls. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal from the surface. It's a distress beacon, but it's not standard." "Put it through the speakers." A low, pulsing tone filled the bridge. It was definitely artificial, but it didn't sound like any human technology. Woojin knew. The pattern was too complex, too musical. And underneath the main signal, he could hear something else. Whispers in a language he had never heard before. "How long has that been broadcasting?" Woojin asked. "According to the beacon's timestamp, exactly 3 days," Hana replied. "Right when the colony stopped sending reports." Woojin made his decision. "Prepare a landing party. Hana, Taiho, you're with me. Full environmental suits and weapons." The shuttle ride to the surface was quiet. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts about what they might find. The colony had been doing well in all its reports. Good crops, healthy people, no problems with the local wildlife. What could have happened so quickly? They landed in New Sol's main square. As soon as they stepped out of the shuttle, Woojin knew something was terribly wrong. The town was completely silent. No voices, no machinery, no sounds of life at all. Even the wind seemed muted. "Look at this," Hana called out. She was standing near a house with an open door. Through the doorway, Woojin could see a dining table set for dinner. Steam was still rising from a bowl of soup. They entered carefully. The house looked like a family had just stepped away for a moment. Children's toys were scattered on the floor. A tablet was still playing a video, but there were no people anywhere. "The soup is still hot," Tejo observed, checking it with a scanner. "This meal was prepared less than an hour ago." That was impossible. The colony had been silent for 3 days. Woojin felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's temperature. They searched house after house. In every one, they found the same thing, signs that people had been there very recently, but no actual people. Beds that were still warm, coffee that was still brewing, computer screens that showed messages half-typed. "Captain," Hana called from the town's power station. "You need to see this." Inside the power station, everything was covered in a strange, blue crystal-like substance. It grew on the walls in beautiful, complex patterns. When Woojin touched it with his gloved hand, it felt warm and seemed to pulse with its own light. "It's everywhere," Hana said. "Every building in town has some of this stuff, but it's thickest here at the power station and the communications center." Tejo was taking samples of the crystal substance. "Captain, this material is not from this planet. It's not from any planet I know of. The molecular structure is impossible." "What do you mean, impossible?" "It exists in more dimensions than our instruments can measure. It's like looking at a shadow of something much larger and more complex. The distress beacon continued its strange song in the background. Hana had traced the signal to a transmitter in the communications building, but when they found it, they got another shock. "This isn't our equipment," she said, staring at the device. "This is definitely not human technology. The transmitter was made of the same blue crystal as the growths on the walls. But this wasn't just a random growth. It was clearly built with purpose. Complex patterns covered its surface, and it hummed with energy." "So someone else put this here," Wujin said. "Someone took our people and left this thing broadcasting." "But broadcasting what?" Taeho asked. "And to who?" Hana had been working on translating the signal. Her face went pale as she stared at her readings. "Captain, I don't think this is a distress call. I think it's a message. And I think..." She paused, checking her work again. "I think it's coordinates. Someone is giving out the location of this planet." "Coordinates to who?" Before Hana could answer, all of their equipment started beeping at once. Motion sensors, heat detectors, electromagnetic scanners. Everything was going crazy. "Something big is moving out there," Taeho whispered. Through the windows of the communications building, they could see shapes moving in the darkness between buildings. The shapes were huge, at least 3 meters tall, and they moved in a way that was not quite walking and not quite floating. The blue crystals on the walls began to glow brighter. The strange music of the distress beacon got louder. And in that music, Wujin could now hear something that made his blood run cold. It sounded like voices, human voices, crying out in pain and fear. "We need to get back to the shuttle," he said quietly. "Right now." But as they moved toward the door, one of the shapes appeared in the doorway. It was tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of metal and crystal. Where its face should be, there was only a smooth surface that reflected their lights back at them. The thing spoke, and its voice was like music and machinery combined. "Welcome, humans. We have been waiting for you." More shapes appeared behind. The first one. They filled the doorway and blocked the windows. The blue crystals on the walls pulsed brighter with each word the creatures spoke. "Where are our people?" Wujin demanded, his hand moving to his weapon. The creature tilted its head. "They are safe. They are preserved. They are part of us now, as you will be." "Like hell," Wujin started to say, but the creature raised one long arm. "You cannot fight us, Captain Wujin. We know everything about you. We learned it from your colonists. We know about your ship, your crew, your weapons. We know about Earth." The thing paused, and Wujin could swear he heard it laugh. "We know that someone will come looking for you. And when they do, we will be ready. The beacon calls to them even now." In the distance, Wujin could hear the Harmony's engines starting up. Hana's face went white as she checked her communicator. "Captain, the ship is taking off without us." Through the window, they watched their only way home disappear into the night sky. They were trapped on a dead world with creatures that had somehow absorbed 50,000 people, and somewhere in space the beacon continued its strange song, calling out to anyone who might be listening, calling them to come and join the harvest. The crystal creatures surrounded Wujin and his team in the communications building. Up close, they were even more disturbing than from a distance. Their bodies seemed to be made of living metal that flowed like water, with veins of blue crystal running through them like glowing blood. The largest creature stepped forward. It was easily 4 meters tall, and the crystal patterns on its body were more complex than the others. When it moved, the smaller crystals on the walls responded, pulsing in rhythm with its steps. "I am Kesivol," the creature said in its strange, musical voice. "I speak for the Veltar. You will lower your weapons." Wujin kept his gun pointed at the thing. "What did you do with our people?" "They have joined us," Kesivol replied. "As all intelligent life must. This is the way of things." Dr. Taeho stepped forward, his scanner still in his hands. "What do you mean, joined you? Where are they?" Kesivol turned its smooth, reflective head toward the xenobiologist. "Would you like to see?" Before anyone could react, Kesivol raised one arm, The blue crystals all around them flared with brilliant light. Suddenly, the walls of the building seemed to disappear, and they found themselves standing in a vast space filled with floating pods. Inside each pod was a human being. Wu Jin recognized some of them, colonists he had met on previous supply runs. They floated in a blue liquid, their eyes closed with crystal filaments attached to their heads and bodies. The filaments pulsed with the same blue light as the walls. "They are not dead," Keseval said, as if reading Wu Jin's thoughts. "Death is wasteful. Instead, we preserve their minds, their memories, their knowledge. They become part of our great consciousness." Hana was staring in horror at the scene around them. "You're stealing their minds." "We are preserving them," Keseval corrected. "Before we arrived, these humans would have lived perhaps 80 years, then died and been forgotten. Now they will live forever, their thoughts and experiences part of something greater than themselves." Teho raised his scanner toward one of the pods. "The neural activity, it's not normal. Their minds are being drained." "Not drained," Keseval said. "Copied, absorbed. We take their knowledge and add it to our own. Every species we encounter makes us stronger, smarter, more complete." The scene around them shifted. Now they were standing in what looked like a vast library, with crystalline shelves stretching up into darkness. But instead of books, the shelves held glowing orbs of different colors. Each orb contains the complete knowledge and memory of an entire species, Keseval explained. "We have been collecting for over 1,000,000 years. Civilizations that would have died out naturally now live on within us." Wu Jin felt sick. "You're murderers." "We are preservers of life," Keseval insisted. "Without us, these species would be lost to time. Their art, their science, their culture, all forgotten. We ensure they are remembered forever." The scene changed again. They were back in the communications building, but now they could see through the walls to the town outside. Every building was covered in the blue crystals, and more Veltar moved through the streets like ghosts. "How many worlds have you done this to?" Hana asked. "Thousands," Keseval replied without emotion. "Tens of thousands. Whenever we find intelligent life, we preserve it. It is our purpose." Taiho was studying his readings again. "The beacon, what is it really calling?" For the first time, Keseval seemed to hesitate. "It announces our harvest to others who might come looking. It warns them away." "That's not true," Hana said suddenly. She had been working on her translator during the entire conversation, and now her face was pale with understanding. "I've been analyzing the signal pattern. It's not a warning, it's a challenge." Keseval's smooth head turned toward her. "You understand nothing, human. The message says, 'Come if you dare,'" Hana continued. "It's giving coordinates and daring someone to respond. But why would you want someone to come here?" The large Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the smaller creatures shifted restlessly. The blue crystals on the walls pulsed faster. "Some species," Keseval finally said, "require special handling." "What do you mean?" Wu Jin demanded. "Most civilizations we encounter are peaceful. They surrender easily or fight with simple weapons that cannot harm us. But occasionally we find a species that is different." "Different how?" Keseval gestured toward the window. In the distance, they could see lights in the sky. Ships approaching the planet. Some species become dangerous when threatened. They develop weapons, tactics, technologies that could potentially harm us. For these species, we must learn everything about them before we harvest them. Wu Jin felt a chill of understanding. "You're using us as bait. The ships approaching are from your military," Keseval confirmed. "They will come to investigate, and when they do, we will learn about human warfare, human technology, human tactics. Only then will we visit your homeworld." On Hana's scanner, she could see dozens of ships approaching. But something was wrong with the readings. "Captain," she whispered, "these ships, they're huge, and they're not broadcasting any identification signals." Through the windows, they could see the first ships entering the atmosphere. They were massive, each one easily a kilometer long. But they moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. Kesavol was staring at the approaching ships, and for the first time, there was something like concern in its voice. "These are not the ships we expected." "What do you mean?" Tejo asked. "Our analysis of human military records suggested your vessels would be smaller, crewed by hundreds of individuals. These ships..." Kesavol paused. "These ships show no life signs at all." The leading ship passed overhead, blotting out the stars. Its hull was black as space itself, with no lights or windows. But as it passed, they could hear something, a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "It's singing," Hana said in wonder. The ship was indeed making music, but it was unlike anything they had ever heard. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, like the sound of wind through a graveyard or the last words of a dying warrior. More ships followed, each one singing its own part in a harmony that made the Veltar crystals pulse frantically. The smaller Veltar creatures began backing away from the windows, their smooth faces somehow showing fear. Kesavol raised its arms and spoke in its own language to the other Veltar. The sound was harsh and urgent, clearly orders or warnings. "What's happening?" Wu Jin asked. But Kesavol was no longer paying attention to them. It was staring at the ships overhead with what could only be described as terror. The largest ship settled into a hovering position above the town. It was so massive that it blocked out most of the sky. But instead of landing, it simply waited there, singing its haunting song. Then a voice spoke from the ship. It was human, but somehow more than human. Deep and resonant and filled with an authority that made everyone listen. "Veltar vessel, this is Fleet Commander Jae Sung of the Human Defense Fleet. You have committed acts of war against humanity. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Kesavol's voice shook as it replied through the communication system. "We are the Veltar. We have harvested 1,000 species. You cannot threaten us." "We are not here to threaten you," the voice replied. "We are here to end you." The singing from the ships changed, becoming deeper and more ominous. In the distance, Wu Jin could see flashes of light as the Veltar ships tried to launch some kind of attack, but their weapons simply disappeared when they hit the black ships, not deflected or blocked. They just ceased to exist. "Impossible," Kesavol whispered. "You took our people," Fleet Commander Jae Sung continued. "You made them part of your collection. That was your mistake." "We preserve consciousness," Kesavol protested. "We give eternal life." "You give slavery," the voice replied, "and we have come to set them free." The black ships began to descend toward the planet's surface. As they came closer, Wu Jin could see that they weren't just ships. They were something far more terrifying. They were weapons of war, built by a species that had decided to become ghosts in order to protect what they loved. And the Veltar, for all their power and ancient knowledge, had never encountered anything like humanity's willingness to sacrifice everything for revenge. 6 months before Captain Wu Jin discovered the silent colony, Admiral Hyun-woo sat in his office at Earth Defense Command, staring at reports that made no sense. 3 human colonies had gone completely dark in the past month. No distress calls, no final messages, just silence. Hyun-woo was a career military officer who had seen action in the Mars Rebellion and the asteroid mining wars. He knew what combat looked like, what disasters looked like, even what plagues looked like. But this was different. This was like entire populations had simply vanished. "Sir, you have a visitor," his aide announced. Dr. So-young entered the office carrying a thick folder of documents. She was the head of the military's Artificial Intelligence Research Division, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Admiral, we need to talk about Project Reaper," she said without preamble. Project Reaper was Earth's most classified military program. Hyun-woo knew it existed, but even he didn't know all the details. It had something to do with artificial intelligence and military applications, but most of the research was beyond his understanding. "What about it?" he asked. So-young opened her folder and spread photos across his desk. They showed massive ships under construction in hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. The vessels were unlike anything in the current fleet, sleek, black, and somehow menacing even in photographs. "We're ready for field testing," she said. "But I need your authorization to activate the consciousness transfers." "Consciousness transfers?" So Young sat down and rubbed her tired eyes. "Admiral, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. Project Reaper isn't just about building new ships. It's about building new kinds of warriors." She pulled out another set of documents. These contained medical records, psychological profiles, and what looked like brain scans. 5 years ago, we started a volunteer program. We approached military veterans, soldiers, sailors, pilots, Marines, who were dying of old age or terminal illness. We offered them a chance to serve humanity one final time. Hyunwoo felt a chill. What kind of chance? We digitized their consciousness, their memories, their training, their instincts, everything that made them who they were. Then we installed those digital minds into the ships themselves. The Admiral stared at the photographs of the black ships with new understanding. The ships are alive? More than alive. They are the veterans who volunteered. Admiral Yi Sun-sin, who defended Korea against impossible odds. Colonel Smith, who held the line at New Damascus. Captain Park, who single-handedly saved the Mars colonies from pirates. 200 of humanity's greatest warriors, now living inside kilometer-long warships. Hyunwoo picked up one of the medical files. It belonged to Fleet Commander Jae-sung, a legendary admiral who had died defending a civilian evacuation convoy. According to the file, his consciousness had been successfully transferred into the flagship of the new fleet. "This is insane," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Maybe," So Young agreed. "But it works. The test runs have been incredible. These ships don't just fight, they think, they learn, they adapt, and they're connected to each other through quantum communication links. They share knowledge instantly, but they're still human? In every way that matters, they have their memories, their personalities, their values. They volunteered for this because they wanted to continue serving humanity. The only difference is that instead of flesh and blood bodies, they have hulls made of advanced armor and weapon systems." Hyunwoo stood up and walked to his window. Outside, he could see the normal ships of the defense fleet, crewed vessels with humans inside, following standard military protocols. The idea of ships that were themselves the crew was difficult to accept. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. "Because of the missing colonies," So Young replied. "Whatever is out there, it's not natural. It's not pirates or rebels or equipment failure. Something is deliberately targeting human settlements, and we need to be ready to respond." That's when Colonel Dong-min entered the office. He was the military liaison to Project Reaper, and like So Young, he looked exhausted. "Admiral, we just received a transmission from Kepler 442b, he said. "New Sol Colony is broadcasting a distress signal, but it's not from our people." He handed Hyunwoo a data pad with the signal analysis. The transmission was clearly artificial, but the patterns were unlike any human technology. "It's been broadcasting for 6 hours, Dong-min continued. "The signal is strong enough to reach Earth, which means whoever sent it wants us to know what happened." Hyunwoo studied the data. The signal seemed to contain coordinates and what might be a message, but in a completely unknown language. "It's a trap," he said finally. "Someone wants us to come investigate." "That's what we think too," So Young agreed. "Which is why we need to activate the Ghost Fleet." "Ghost Fleet?" That's what the consciousness transfers call themselves. They chose the name because they're the ghosts of warriors who died serving humanity. They're ready to do it again. Hyunwoo made his decision. "Authorization granted. Activate Project Reaper." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Deep in hidden bases throughout the solar system, massive ships began powering up for the first time. Each one was controlled by the digitized consciousness of a military veteran who had volunteered to continue serving even after death. In the flagship, Fleet Commander Jae-sung felt himself awakening. His new body was a kilometer-long dreadnought with weapons that could destroy small moons. His crew was his own consciousness, multiplied and specialized into different functions. He was the ship's captain, navigation officer, weapons specialist, and engineer all at once. Ghost Fleet, report status, he broadcast to the other ships. One by one, the responses came in. Ship Captain Minho, formerly a tank commander, now controlling a heavy assault vessel. Ship Captain Ye Jin, a former fighter pilot, now merged with the fastest ship in the fleet. Ship Captain Boram, a cyber warfare specialist, now living inside a ship designed for electronic combat. All of them were dead. All of them were volunteers. All of them were ready to fight. Admiral Hyunwoo, this is Ghost Fleet Command, Jae-sung transmitted to Earth. All ships operational and awaiting orders. Hyunwoo's voice came through the communication link. Commander, we have a situation at Kepler 442b. Unknown hostile forces have taken a human colony and are broadcasting what appears to be a challenge. You are authorized to investigate and respond with full military force. Understood, Admiral. Ghost Fleet will handle this. Jae-sung plotted a course for the distant colony. Around him, 200 ships of the Ghost Fleet prepared for their first combat mission. They were no longer bound by the limitations of human bodies. No need for life support. No concern for radiation or acceleration forces. No fear of death because they had already died once. Ghost Fleet, this is your commander, Jae-sung broadcast, to all ships. We don't know what we're going to find out there, but whatever it is, it made a mistake when it attacked our people. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten humanity. The response came back from 200 artificial minds that still carried the hearts of human warriors. Sir, yes sir. As the Ghost Fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives, Jae-sung thought about the irony of the situation. Humanity had created the perfect soldiers by turning their dead heroes into living weapons, but they were still human in the ways that mattered most. They still cared about protecting innocent people. They still believed in duty and honor, and they were still willing to sacrifice everything for their species. Whatever was waiting at Kepler 442b was about to learn that some things were worse than death. They were about to face the ghosts of humanity's warriors, and those ghosts were very, very angry. The Ghost Fleet arrived at Kepler 442b like a dark storm. 200 black ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their hulls absorbing light and giving nothing back. Each ship was a kilometer of death and determination, controlled by the consciousness of humanity's finest warriors. On the planet's surface, Captain Woo Jin and his team watched through the windows as the massive vessels descended. The Veltar creatures around them were clearly afraid, their crystal patterns pulsing rapidly in what seemed to be panic. Impossible, Kesseval whispered, staring at the approaching fleet. No species has ever responded so quickly to a harvest. Fleet, Commander Jae-sung's voice echoed across every communication channel on the planet. It was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its certainty. This is the human defense fleet to any human survivors on Kepler 442b. We are here. You are safe now. Woo Jin grabbed his communicator. This is Captain Woo Jin of the exploration vessel Harmony. We're trapped in the colony with hostile aliens. They've captured the entire population. Understood, Captain. Maintain your position. We'll handle this. The lead ship settled into a hovering position directly above the colony. Up close, it was even more intimidating. A smooth black surface, covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move in the light. When it spoke again, the voice came from everywhere at once. Veltar Commander, this is Fleet Commander Jae-sung. You have committed acts of war against humanity by taking our citizens. I am authorized to negotiate your surrender or your destruction. Kesseval stepped forward, its crystal patterns flashing in complex sequences. When it spoke, its musical voice carried clearly through the communication system. I am Kesseval, Prime Harvester of the Veltar. We do not surrender. We have harvested consciousness for over 1 million years. Your species is young and weak. You cannot threaten us. You're wrong about that, Jae-sung replied. But before we begin, I want you to understand something. The ships you're looking at aren't crewed by living humans, they are humans. We volunteered to become these vessels so we could protect our species from threats like you. Kesseval's smooth head tilted. Artificial intelligence? We have encountered such things before. They are easily corrupted or destroyed. Not artificial intelligence, Jae-sung corrected. Human consciousness transferred into digital form and installed in warships. We died to become these ships. We gave up our humanity to gain the power to protect humanity. The Veltar leader was quiet for a moment. Around the colony, other Veltar vessels began emerging from hiding places, sleek crystal ships that moved like living things through the air. Even if this is true, Kesavol finally said, you are only 200 ships. We have thousands, and we have powers your primitive minds cannot understand. Show me, Jae-sung replied. The first Veltar attack came without warning. Beams of pure energy lanced out from their ships, weapons that had destroyed the defenses of 1,000 worlds. The energy was designed to disrupt electronic systems and organic neural networks simultaneously. A perfect weapon against normal civilizations. The beams struck the Ghost Fleet ships and simply disappeared. Interesting, Jae-sung commented. Your weapons target biological neural networks, but we don't have those anymore. Try again. The second attack was different, some kind of psychic assault that was meant to overwhelm and confuse enemy minds. Woojin and his team felt it as a crushing pressure against their thoughts, a force that tried to tear their consciousness apart. But the Ghost Fleet felt nothing. We already died once, Ship Captain Minho transmitted on an open channel. Death doesn't scare us anymore. The Veltar tried a third attack, reality warping technology that changed the fundamental laws of physics in the space around the Ghost Fleet. Gravity reversed, time slowed down, and the vacuum of space became thick as water. The Ghost Fleet ships adapted instantly. Their consciousness-based control system simply rewrote their understanding of how to move and fight in the new conditions. What should have been disabling became merely inconvenient. Our turn, Jae-sung announced. The Ghost Fleet's response was unlike anything the Veltar had ever faced. Instead of energy weapons or missiles, the ships used gravity manipulation technology to grab the Veltar vessels and crush them like toys. Ship Captain Ye-jin, using her fighter pilot instincts, scaled up to capital ship combat, led precision, strikes that targeted the crystal nodes controlling each Veltar ship. But the most terrifying part was how they fought as one mind. Every Ghost Fleet ship instantly shared tactical data with every other ship. When Minho discovered a weakness in Veltar armor, all 200 ships knew about it within milliseconds. When Boram found a way to jam Veltar communications, the entire fleet immediately coordinated to exploit it. In less than 10 minutes, half the Veltar fleet was destroyed or disabled. Impossible, Kesavol screamed, its musical voice distorted by rage and fear. No species has ever been willing to die to become their own weapons, Jae-sung interrupted. That's what makes us different. We don't just fight for humanity. We are humanity's fighting spirit made manifest. On the planet's surface, the smaller Veltar creatures were retreating. The blue crystals on the walls had stopped pulsing and were beginning to crack and crumble. Where are our people? Jae-sung demanded. They have been absorbed into our collective consciousness, Kesavol replied, no longer sounding confident. They cannot be returned. Wrong answer, said Ship Captain Yoon-ji, a former intelligence officer. I've been analyzing your biosignatures. The human consciousness patterns are still distinct and recoverable. You've been keeping them separate because you're still in the process of absorbing them. We will not release them. You don't have a choice, Jae-sung replied. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell every other Veltar in the galaxy exactly what happened here today. You're going to spread the word that humanity is off limits. And if we refuse, then we hunt down every Veltar ship, every Veltar world, every Veltar harvesting operation in the galaxy and destroy them all. We have 200 ships here, but Earth can build more, a lot more, as many as we need. Kesavol's smooth head turned toward the floating pods containing the human colonists. Even if we release these individuals, others of our kind will continue the harvest. We are spread across thousands of worlds. You cannot stop us all. Watch us, Jae-sung replied. At that moment, something happened that changed everything. The communication system crackled with a transmission from deep space, a Veltar signal from the other side of the galaxy. All harvester fleets, the message said in the Veltar's musical language, Emergency convergence order. New species has proven resistant to absorption. All fleets are to converge on Sol system for coordinated harvest of human homeworld. Wu Jin felt his heart sink. Earth was about to be attacked by the entire Veltar species. But Jae Sung's response was calm and determined. Ghost Fleet, you heard that transmission. Change of plans. We're not just here to rescue these colonists. We're here to send a message that the entire galaxy will understand. What kind of message? Kesavol asked. The kind that comes from 200 dead warriors who are really, really angry about what you've done to our people. By the time we're finished with you, every Veltar in the galaxy will know that humanity doesn't just defend itself. The Ghost Fleet ships began moving into new attack formations, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon systems that defied conventional physics. We hunt. The Veltar emergency signal spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 different worlds, harvester fleets received the same message. A new species called humanity had proven resistant to normal absorption techniques. All Veltar forces were ordered to converge on the human homeworld for a coordinated harvest. Fleet Commander Jae Sung intercepted every transmission. Through the Ghost Fleet's quantum communication network, he shared the intelligence with Admiral Hyun-woo on Earth within seconds. Admiral, we have a problem, Jae Sung reported. Long-range sensors are detecting over 3,000 Veltar ships moving toward Earth from all directions. They'll arrive in approximately 6 months. In his office on Earth, Admiral Hyun-woo stared at the tactical display. 3,000 ships against humanity's normal fleet of maybe 200 vessels. It would be a massacre. Ghost Fleet status? He asked. All 200 ships operational, but we're outnumbered 15-1. Even with our advantages, those aren't good odds. Dr. So Young, who was monitoring the conversation, leaned forward. Commander Jae Sung, what if we don't fight defensively? What do you mean, Doctor? The Veltar expect us to fortify Earth and wait for them to attack. What if we don't do that? What if we hunt them instead? On his flagship above Kepler 442b, Jae Sung considered this. His consciousness could process tactical scenarios thousands of times faster than a human brain, and he quickly saw the possibilities. You're suggesting we split up the fleet and attack the Veltar forces individually before they can group together? Exactly. You said it yourself. The Ghost Fleet shares information instantly. Every battle teaches all of you new tactics. The more Veltar ships you fight, the better you get at fighting them. Jae Sung ran the calculations. It was incredibly risky. The Ghost Fleet would be spread thin across the galaxy, each group of ships facing overwhelming odds, but it might work. Admiral Hyun-woo, I need permission to divide the Ghost Fleet into hunting groups. We'll intercept the Veltar fleets before they reach Earth. That's suicide, Commander. Sir, with respect, we're already dead, and this gives us the best chance of protecting Earth. Hyun-woo was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Permission granted. Godspeed, Commander. The Ghost Fleet split into 20 groups of 10 ships each. Each group was led by one of humanity's most experienced military minds now living inside a warship. They scattered across the galaxy to intercept the approaching Veltar fleets. Ship Captain Minho took his group toward the Antares sector, where a Veltar harvester fleet was moving through a region filled with asteroid fields. Using his tank, commander instincts, he turned the asteroids into weapons, using the Ghost Fleet's gravity manipulation technology to hurl them at enemy ships. The Veltar had never faced opponents who could use an entire star system as a battlefield. Minho's group destroyed 30 Veltar ships while losing only 2 of their own. Ship Captain Ye Jin led her group in hit-and-run attacks against a larger Veltar fleet near the Vega system. Her fighter pilot experience translated perfectly to commanding fast attack ships. She would jump into a system, destroy several enemy vessels, and jump out before the Veltar could respond. But the most successful hunter was Ship Captain Bo Ram, the former cyber warfare specialist. She discovered that Veltar ships were connected to each other through some kind of biological communication network. By jamming these connections, she could turn their greatest strength, their hive mind, into a weakness. Ghost Fleet Command. This is Bo Ram, she reported after her 3rd successful engagement. I've figured out how to hack their biomechanical systems. I can make their own ships attack each other. Explain, Jae-sung replied. The Veltar consciousness isn't actually distributed. It's centralized in command ships that control the others. If I can take over a command ship, I can control its entire fleet. Within a week, Bo-Ram had turned 6 entire Veltar fleets against each other. The galaxy watched in amazement as harvester ships that had worked together for millions of years suddenly began destroying each other. But the Ghost Fleet was paying a price for their aggressive tactics. Ship Captain Dongsu was destroyed defending a civilian space station. Ship Captain Haiwan sacrificed herself to take out a Veltar super harvester. One by one, humanity's digital warriors were dying their second deaths. On Earth, Admiral Hyun-woo watched the tactical display with growing concern. The Ghost Fleet was winning individual battles, but they were being worn down. At their current rate of loss, they would be destroyed long before all the Veltar fleets were stopped. We need reinforcements, he told Dr. So-young. The consciousness transfer technology isn't ready for mass production, she replied. It takes months to properly digitize a human mind, and we need volunteers who are already dying. Then we find more volunteers. The call went out across Earth and all human colonies. Veterans who were terminally ill, soldiers wounded beyond healing, pilots whose bodies were too damaged to fight, all were offered the chance to join the Ghost Fleet. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of humanity's warriors volunteered to die and be reborn as digital consciousnesses inside warships. The shipyards of Earth worked around the clock to build new vessels for them, but it would take months to complete the transfers and build the ships. The Ghost Fleet was on its own. Deep in space, Fleet Commander Jae-sung received intelligence that changed everything. Ship Captain Yoon-ji, using her skills as a former intelligence officer, had been analyzing Veltar communication patterns. Commander, I've found something, she reported. The Veltar aren't just coordinating their attack on Earth, they're withdrawing forces from their homeworld. Jae-sung felt a digital chill run through his consciousness. Their homeworld? It's a massive artificial construct called Velnoth. According to the intercepted communications, it contains the stored consciousness of every species they've ever harvested. Billions of minds, including our colonist from Kepler 442b. And it's undefended? Almost. They've pulled most of their fleets for the Earth attack. There are maybe 50 ships guarding it. Jae-sung made a command decision that would either save humanity or doom it. All Ghost Fleet units, new orders. Converge on the Veltar homeworld. We're not waiting for them to come to us. Sir, what about Earth? Min-ho asked. Earth can build new ships and train new crews. But if Velnoth contains the minds of every species the Veltar have harvested, then destroying it might cripple them permanently. And if we can free those stored consciousnesses, we turn the Veltar's own collection against them, Yoon-ji finished. Brilliant, sir. The remaining 147 ships of the Ghost Fleet began the long journey to Velnoth. They left behind a galaxy, in chaos with Veltar fleet still heading toward Earth, but now without coordination from their homeworld. As they traveled, Jae-sung thought about the irony of their situation. Humanity had created perfect warriors by turning their dead into living weapons, but in doing so, they had also created something the Veltar had never encountered, beings who understood that some things were more important than survival. Thakir. Ghost Fleet was about to attack the most heavily defended world in Veltar space. Many of them would die. But if they could free the billions of minds trapped in Velnoth, if they could turn the Veltar's own victims against them, then their sacrifice would mean something. They were the ghosts of humanity's warriors, and they were about to attempt the greatest rescue mission in galactic history. Velnoth was not a planet. It was something far more terrible. As the Ghost Fleet approached the Veltar homeworld, Fleet Commander Jae-sung stared at the massive construct that filled his sensors. It was a sphere the size of a small moon, made entirely of the same blue crystal that had covered the buildings on Kepler 442b. But this wasn't just crystal. It was alive. The entire construct pulsed with billions of lights, each one representing a consciousness that had been harvested and stored over millions of years. Somewhere in that massive structure were the minds of 50,000 human colonists, along with countless other species. Ghost Fleet tactical assessment, Jae-sung ordered. The reports came back quickly. Ship Captain Minho, 47 Veltar defensive ships, but they're larger than anything we've faced. Each one is at least twice the size of our vessels. Ship Captain Yejin, the construct itself is armed. I'm detecting weapon systems built into the crystal matrix. Thousands of them. Ship Captain Boram, Commander, the biomechanical signals coming from that thing are incredible. It's like a massive brain made of crystal and metal. Every harvested consciousness is connected to every other one. Can you hack it? Jae-sung asked. I don't know. The scale is enormous. But if I can get close enough to establish a direct connection, do it. All ships, attack formation. We're going in. The Veltar defenders moved to intercept them. These weren't the sleek harvester ships they had fought before. These were massive dreadnoughts designed purely for war. Their weapons were devastating, capable of destroying a Ghost Fleet ship with a single hit. But the Ghost Fleet had learned much from their battles across the galaxy. Ship Captain Minho used asteroid bombardment tactics, hurling chunks of space, debris at the enemy ships to disrupt their formations. Ship Captain Yejin led lightning-fast attack runs that struck at weak points and jumped away before the Veltar could respond. Most importantly, they fought as one mind. When Ship Captain Kyung-ho discovered that the Veltar dreadnoughts had blind spots in their rear sections, every Ghost Fleet ship knew about it instantly. When Ship Captain Hyasun found a way to overload the crystal weapons, the entire fleet adopted her technique within seconds. The battle was fierce and costly. The Ghost Fleet lost 20 ships in the first assault, but they managed to break through the defensive line and reach the surface of Velnoth. That's when the real horror began. As the Ghost Fleet ships descended toward the crystal construct, the surface began to change. Massive structures rose up from the crystal matrix, not buildings or weapons, but something far worse. They were recreation chambers, and inside each one was a perfect copy of a harvested species' homeworld. My God, whispered Ship Captain Tae-young. They're not just storing consciousnesses, they're torturing them. Through the crystal walls, they could see beings from 1,000 different species, living out endless simulations of their final moments before being harvested. Some were fighting battles they could never win. Others were trying to save family members who had already been taken. All of them were trapped in loops of despair and failure. This ends now, Jae-sung declared. But as the Ghost Fleet approached the construct's core, something unexpected happened. The harvested consciousnesses began to fight back, not against the Veltar, but against the Ghost Fleet. Millions of alien minds, driven insane by eons of torture, attacked the digital consciousnesses of the human warriors. It was a battle fought not with weapons, but with pure thought and will. Ship Captain Sojin, a former Marine, felt her consciousness being torn apart by the screaming minds of harvested aliens. They think we're here to harvest them too. Stand. Fast, Jae-sung ordered. Boram, can you establish communication with them? I'm trying, but there are so many voices and they're all in different languages. That's when Ship Captain Yoonji had an idea. Commander, what if we don't try to communicate with words? What if we show them our memories? What do you mean? We're digital consciousnesses now. We can transmit our actual experiences, our actual memories, show them why we're really here. Jae-sung understood immediately. All ships, open your consciousness, archives. Transmit everything, our deaths, our transformation, our mission to free humanity. Let them see who we really are. The Ghost Fleet opened their minds to the harvested consciousnesses. Billions of alien minds suddenly saw the memories of human warriors who had died and been reborn as digital beings. They saw the Ghost Fleet's battles against the Veltar, their determination to free the captured colonists, their willingness to sacrifice themselves for others. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The alien consciousnesses stopped attacking and began helping instead. Species that had been enemies for millions of years united for the first time in their shared hatred of the Veltar. It's working, Boram reported. The harvested minds are giving me access to the construct's control systems. I can see the human colonists. They're being held in a special section near the core. But as the Ghost Fleet pushed deeper into Velnoth, they faced their greatest challenge yet. Kesevol, the Veltar Prime they had encountered on Kepler 442b, appeared in the construct's central chamber. But it was no longer just one being. It had absorbed thousands of other Veltar consciousness and become something monstrous. "You cannot stop us," Kesevol said, its voice now a chorus of alien minds. "We are eternal. We are the preservers of consciousness. Without us, all these beings would be lost to death." "You're not preserving them," Jae-sung replied as his flagship entered the central chamber. "You're torturing them. Death is a natural part of life. You've turned it into eternal suffering. Better eternal suffering than oblivion." The final battle was unlike anything that had ever been fought. It was a contest of pure consciousness. Digital human minds versus the combined Veltar collective that had absorbed 1,000,000 species. Ship Captain Min Ho sacrificed his consciousness to protect the others, transferring his tank commander instincts to the remaining ships. Ship Captain Ye Jin gave up her individual identity to merge temporarily with the harvested alien minds, coordinating their rebellion against the Veltar. One by one, the Ghost Fleet commanders made the ultimate sacrifice, giving up their digital lives to free the billions of trapped consciousnesses. In the end, only Ship Captain Yoon-ji remained, facing Kesevol in the heart of the construct. The intelligence officer who had become a living warship stood against the collective might of the Veltar species. "You want consciousness?" she said to Kesevol. "Here's 200 of humanity's finest warriors. Take them if you can." She opened her consciousness completely. Not just her own memories, but the shared experiences of every Ghost Fleet commander who had died in the battle. The psychic feedback was enormous. The willing sacrifice of beings who had already died once, offered freely to destroy those who would enslave others. The Veltar collective, built on taking consciousness by force, couldn't process the concept of willing sacrifice. The feedback loop tore through their hive mind like a virus, destroying their ability to maintain the harvested consciousnesses. Velnoth began to collapse, but not before ejecting billions of escape pods. Each pod contained the freed consciousness of a being who had been harvested over the past 1,000,000 years. Among them were the 50,000 humans from Kepler 442b and countless others. As the construct died, Ship Captain Yoon-ji felt her own consciousness fading. But she had succeeded. The Veltar species, dependent on their collective hive mind, was fragmenting without the central control of Velnoth. Her last transmission reached Earth. Mission accomplished. The harvest is over. On Earth, Admiral Hyun-woo stood in the memorial hall where 200 quantum cores had once housed the backup personalities of the Ghost Fleet. The cores were empty now. Their consciousnesses had given themselves completely to free the galaxy from the Veltar threat. Dr. So-young approached, him with a data pad. "Admiral, the escape pods from Velnoth are arriving at human colonies. We've confirmed recovery of all 50,000 colonists from Kepler 442b, plus millions of other beings from species we've never encountered. And the Veltar? Scattered and broken. Without their collective consciousness, they've reverted to individual beings. Most of them are actually asking for help. They don't remember how to exist as individuals." Hyun-woo looked at the empty quantum cores. They did it. They actually did it. The Ghost Fleet saved more than just humanity. So-young agreed. They freed every species the Veltar had ever harvested. The entire galaxy owes them a debt. But they're gone. Their individual consciousnesses, yes, but their sacrifice, that lives on in everyone they saved. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to heal. Species that had been thought extinct for millions of years were restored from the rescued consciousnesses. Technologies and cultures that had been lost forever were recovered, and everywhere, the story was told of humanity's Ghost Fleet, warriors who had died twice to save others, who had given up their very souls to free those who had been enslaved. Captain Wu Jin, restored to life from his rescued consciousness, now commanded a new kind of ship, one crewed by beings from a dozen different species, all working together, Because they had learned the value of sacrifice from humanity's example, the distress signal that had summoned the unstoppable killer's fleet was silenced forever.